13.5 feet deep of Predator Bay. That's a hell of a view. Hopefully this comes out on video anywhere near as cool as it looks in person, but just being able to look down the whole length of Predator Bay and seeing my beautiful predators swimming around their tank, I definitely happy that I put in the side windows, because it's very cool optic. So Predator Bay, it has been a few months. I think one thing you might notice, let me swing you around to the side here, is the rock. We don't have a bunch of ugly tan base rock anymore. We have some quite mature rock. So I am very happy with how quickly the seeded rock was able to populate all of the base rock and actually give us an aquarium that looks decent. Beyond that, as you can see with the fish all swimming around, because I think they know it's feeding night later on, everyone is doing great. In fact, Predator Bay exceeded my expectations with transition. There was never a hard cycle. There was so much live rock moved over that there was just a very small cycle, and between all the live rock and the bacteria, it was all good. We never had elevated levels, never had to do water changes. The tank just matured in very nicely. All the fish, early on, there was a little contesting between this guy right here, the blue line grouper, and the Miniatus grouper, where the blue line was giving the Miniatus the business, but they work things out now, and they get along quite well for the most part. They ignore each other, and everybody else has been doing great. The sharks, the rays, and the eel, they've never had a problem with one another. They've always got along great. The other big thing, I think, is the filtration. So as you remember, we have this big runway system, 3 of these big runways under here, and a protein skimmer over on the back side. Obviously the protein skimmer, it's doing what a protein skimmer does. There was never any question there as to whether that would be an issue. But the runway filtration, full of the ceramic material, trying to create those 2 zones, the aerobic zone initially, and then we're going to try to deplete the oxygen and have that really large anaerobic zone or anoxic zone in the middle. As far as I can tell, definitely the aerobic is working, because the water quality is excellent. There's no issues there. I mean, as you can see, these are big fish, big waste load, and there's, just clean sand, no hair algae or anything like that. Just very healthy tank. As far as testing the water, it tests out excellent. But the pleasant surprise has been that it seems that middle anoxic zone, which is packed full of that ceramic material, it seems like so far between that and the live rock, it's doing the job. It's handling the nitrates. Nitrates are still low, and I haven't been doing any water changes at all. So it's holding up so far. Now, these predators, they're all young, They may look big compared to your typical community fish, but these guys are all getting a lot bigger. I mean, that's a fish there that he might even be 1/4 of his adult size. And this Miniatus grouper over here, he's, 1/3 of his size. This horn shark, maybe 1/4 of his adult size. The ray is roughly adult size. And then we, of course, have the bamboo shark. I don't know where he went. But again, a fish that is only 1/3 maybe of his adult size. So a lot of growing to do, and we'll see how that filtration holds on, given the future growth of the fish and the load they put on the system. The one problem we did have is I'm kind of an idiot, and I didn't really, there's 3 of these troughs that are connected with PVC pipe. Let me run around to the side here. So we have 3 of these, and they're connected with double PVC, and the area I screwed up is I didn't really measure to make sure they're all level, so they're actually lower down here than they are over there. Hence you can see a little shim action going on over there. And the problem with that is I don't have a huge amount of leeway for when if you turn off the pumps, for it to drain down. It pretty much fills up the sump all the way. There's not it doesn't overflow, but there's no extra room. It's like all I got is, you know, it's like right at the edge. And because I didn't check to make sure they were level first, I was wasting space up on this side of the filter while it was completely on the edge down there. We had extra space up here, so I had to work to do some shimming action on those without messing up the seals with the bulkheads, you know, with the connector pipes. So I did do that, and you know, it's not perfect actually. Ideally, if I'd have done it ahead of time, I would have a little more play in there. But it is good enough. The way I have the overflows and the returns adjusted now, it works. I can cut the power to it, and it holds the water in the sump. The only thing is I can't fill up the sump as much as I had initially intended, but actually what worked out, pleasant surprise there, is the solution for the top of the aquarium is doing an amazing job of keeping in water vapor, humidity, and evaporation. So this big beast, this 1,800 gallons of Predator Bay is evaporating 5 gallons over the course of 2 weeks, a solid 2 weeks, maybe a few days extra, which is pretty impressive. That's not a lot of water, and I think most of it really is just these couple spots where I have to leave openings, for the return, for the protein skimmer, and a couple other spots. But so that is definitely doing the trick, because when you have a fish basement with stuff like 3,000 gallon aquariums and whatnot, water humidity, water evaporation is a serious thing. You have to make sure everything's covered, and you certainly have to plan for it. So there's mistakes. Some small mistakes were made with this, but all in all, nothing that ended up being a real problem. And I would say that I'm more than happy with Predator Bay so far, and it's, I don't know, what would this be? Maybe it's 3rd or 4th month of existence. So definitely very happy with how everything's going. So I think I think these guys know that it's feeding night, and if you guys don't mind, let me go ahead and feed these guys real quick. Okay, I think they heard me, and they heard about the food, so they all seem that they are ready to chow down. So I'll tell you what, we'll do this a little different. Rather than me trying to film and feed with one hand, we'll just do a little broadcast feeding here, so we'll just pour the food in, and I'll kick back here, and then we'll just see if we can get some good video of the predators chowing down. Okay, well the groupers were too fast. I couldn't even get in position yet before they already got pieces. But lucky for us, groupers are pigs, and they come back for more. So we'll definitely get that. We got that on camera. And the rest of these guys, takes them a minute to find the food. Especially now that it sort of blew over here. We'll see where the bamboo, he's on the other side trying to figure it out. But looks like he's figuring it out. And of course, at the last minute, he turns the other way. But he will figure it out eventually, and I think we have plenty in here that he got a piece right there. Plenty that the ray and the horn shark won't get it all before he goes over there and gets some of those pieces. Now the eel, on the other hand, I didn't catch that if he grabbed a piece when I poured it in or not. He probably did, because he is a serious pig of a feeder, and he would not just go back in his cave empty-handed. And there we go, the bamboo's found the mother lode over there, and he'll wrestle a few away from the ray, and he'll be good to go. So yeah, definitely so far he never gets old feeding these guys. Definitely what I've been doing as far as feeding though is rotating through the food. So you saw tonight was shrimp. This is wild caught raw shrimp, and other nights they get squid, and then yet other nights they get chopped fish or like basically little smelt type fish, which is actually a real favorite of the groupers. They really go crazy for the little smelts. But yeah, try to mix it up. So I do soak some of the foods in the shark vitamins, and then I mix up the foods to make sure that they get a balanced diet, because they're not eating any prepared commercial foods at all. They're just eating, raw seafood, shrimp, squid, and fish. So want to make sure they have that full nutrient profile. So just mix it up. And so right now these guys are all juveniles. So I feed them basically every 2 to 3 days. And I will do that until they reach adult sizes. And then I will probably cut the feeding down to maybe twice a week at the most. You can sort of tell they're actually, all of them are pretty easy to tell how they, how well fed or overfed or underfed they are, because you can see it easily in their stomach and in their back fat on the rays, and again, the stomach on the side of the shark. So you don't want that. You don't want that bulging out. You don't want it depressed in. You want that nice little bit of a healthy bulge. Yeah. So a little bit of a bulge there, but not much. Not overfed. Another thing for these guys, it's generally better for them to eat, every few days rather than feed them smaller amounts daily. It's better that they sort of feast famine. That's how they operate in the wild typically. And I think everything I've read and my experience with these fish, and I have kept bamboo and coral cat sharks before, that did work very well. The groupers, on the other hand, are a little different than the sharks and rays, and I do feed them additional feedings just for them, and I feed them those little smelts. I'll throw them in, and they'll nail them really fast before anyone else has a chance. It sucks because it kind of teases the other fish. The sharks and rays smell it, and they're not going to get anything. But it's what the groupers need, because they aren't sharks and rays, so they don't eat the same way. They need to eat a little more frequently. They they expend more energy. They're up in the water column, swimming around a lot more than the sharks and rays. Sharks and rays will just park themselves and take plenty of time just resting on the bottom. They're not burning as much energy as the groupers. So that's part of the reason why it can be difficult to combine fish, certain types of fish. So if I put a bunch of fish that are large enough to not be eaten by these guys, but who would live up in the water column and always be swimming around, they would need to eat more frequently. So I would have to feed them, but yet the sharks and rays, they smell all that food in the water column, and they'll come out, but yet it's not really for them. So it can be tricky to keep fish that are very sort of specific or very different. So while it would be nice to have a large tang in here that could just go pick on a little bit of algae and everything, it would be problematic just with the husbandry of keeping big predators or future big predators like these guys and smaller fish, something like a tang or whatnot. But overall, even though I don't have maybe necessarily all of the action top water with the other fish, I do thoroughly enjoy this aquarium. I mean, I can't say I wouldn't change a thing, but I sure as heck wouldn't change much, because it's been super enjoyable so far, and these guys are all babies. There's a lot of growth to go, and there is also other fish to come. This is not the only fish that will be in this aquarium. So there is certainly more to look forward to and more enjoyment to be had, as well as just my favorite thing, which is seeing the tank mature over years and decades. That's the thing. I look forward to the 10-year video on this aquarium, where we have everything's full, even the 5-year, everything's full grown, and we just see how the tank matures, and we see how a proper ecosystem can really manage itself. You can do not so much work and let the tank, really put a lot of let the bacteria, let the live rock, let the ecology of the aquarium put a lot of the work in for you, so you can just sit back and enjoy these beautiful creatures. Okay, so that's the update on Predator Bay, and I thought, what, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the reef slope too, and we'll just show you where that's at, because coming up real soon, you'll probably see in the next video, we're starting to get hot and heavy on building out the new freshwater room. So we got a couple big DIY builds. We got some big new freshwater tanks coming online. There's a lot of work to go. So it may be a while before we see the salt tanks, while they get mature up, and we get the other ones populated with corals and whatnot. So let's go ahead and take a peek at the reef slope and see where it's at now. Okay, even though this is an update on Predator Bay, I think it made sense to go ahead and throw in the 600-gallon reef slope and just show you where this aquarium is at. I think one of the main things that you can see is that the rock is finally, remember this was mostly all dry base rock, and we are really starting to get some coralline growth growing in there. Coming a long way in that respect. The fish are doing great. Tell you what, let me put in some food and we'll get these guys out and about. Okay, if they're big feeding for the day, that should get everybody swimming around and chowing down. Obviously, as just like before, the Queen Angel is not shy. Though, actually, surprisingly, they noticed the camera. They're acting totally different than if I were just sitting here. I'm sitting in the same spot that I would watch and feed, but just holding up the camera has them a little camera shy. But they seem to be coming out of it now, even though the Queen Angel seems to just be focused on the camera and not the food. So mostly good things with this aquarium. So obviously the coralline algae, the maturing of the tank and the rock is an important factor, and it's coming along. It's starting to, it doesn't look great right now, but it's starting to look better, and it'll just continue to look better. The other key thing is the fish are doing great. I gotta tell you, I am loving the French Angel. Just a really cool fish. Loving a lot, all these fish really, but the French is one that I haven't had, oh no, I had once before, but it's been a long time. So definitely enjoying that. Only real bad thing that happened is I did order clownfish. I ordered a pair of clownfish, blood red misbar ocellaris, and I ordered two, and one was DOA, and they didn't have another one to send, so I have a single clown just chilling by himself. So I need to get a second one of those so they can form up with their pair. And as you also notice with the tank, still no corals, no anemones, none of that sort of thing. So that's obviously something I'm working on, is getting affordable corals. Between this and the 265, I just have so much rock work that needs to be covered, and I don't want to just put in, like, you know, green star polyp everywhere and have it go crazy. I want to have a little more diversity of mix without breaking the bank. So still trying to find affordable frags, and still working on setting up a little frag system so that I can grow out those affordable frags before they go in the large aquarium where it's much more difficult to work with them. So, but everybody else is good, all the other fish are good, and coralline is growing in. So the 600-gallon reef slope is definitely on its way. Not looking like a reef slope, well, looking like a rock work of reef slope, but not a real reef, you know. So definitely the focus here is, while the fish grow out, is to get the rock work seeded with the corals and start making this thing look like a proper reef slope. Oh, and one other thing, I was using the two gyres, one in the back, one in the front. That was working great. You might notice we kind of have half the wave action we had before. As my front gyre keeps messing up, keeps airing out and stop working. So I'm gonna have to take that thing apart and see if I can't get it working. Sometimes you live and die when you buy like the cheapo J-Bow stuff off of Amazon, you know. Sometimes it'll just work for years and years and it's a very affordable solution, and other times you get the duds. So we'll see if I can't get it working, and if not, I'll have to think of something else for the water flow, which it seems to be the recurring problem with this, is getting the water flow down how I want it. You'll know if you see max spec gyres, or I'm sorry, not max spec gyres, vortex. If you see vortex on the front, then you know I broke down and took the expensive easy way out. But I'm trying to find other solutions that don't hurt the pocketbook quite as much as the vortex. So that's the 600 reef slope, you know, for now. All right, thanks for checking out this update on Predator Bay and the reef slope. Stay tuned for upcoming videos. We have some cool things starting. We have a new fish annex room. We have 2 big DIY builds in there. Turns out I measured wrong, and there's going to be 3 tanks, not 2 tanks in there. So sorry about that. You're just going to have to suffer through a 3rd tank build. And of course, we're going to be doing big things at the tank behind me, and the 125, and all kinds of things. And hopefully I can find some corals and we'll actually make the reef slope a reef. You know, we'll see what happens. As well as I am still doing work on the 3,000 gallon. There's a whole new section to the filtration. I basically reconfigured part of the filtration. I'm not done with it yet, but I will take a video of that. I'll show you what I did there. And of course, we'll follow along with the tank itself and we'll see the results and see if we get the results we expect. But yeah, stay tuned. Lots of stuff upcoming. Thanks.